Yeah, farmers have not had it good so far this administration. Joining us now, CNBC co-anchor Brian Sullivan. Brian, really good to have you. Explain why fertilizer is being impacted.
Yeah, and I know the story's a little bit wonky, but it is important. And a side note, before I got into broadcasting, I actually traded chemical fertilizers. So this is not horse manure, for lack of a better term. It's not the old chemical, the fertilizers we used to think of. These are chemicals. They're like small gumballs, effectively, or large BBs. They're round pellets. And it's one of the biggest markets in the world, and they're critically vital for growing food around the world. And while oil is getting all the headlines around the Strait of Hormuz, about 30 to 50% of either the fully produced fertilizers or ingredients, Katie, in those fertilizers goes through the Strait of Hormuz. We think, oh, it's just an oil tanker going through. No, it's not. It is these large bulk carriers filled with these little pellets, which are critical. All the voices that you just heard from farmers here in the United States, but also around the world, the price has gone up by about 30% in 1 week. So these fertilizers that we use to produce food, not just here, but in major food producing nations all over the world, prices are going up because supplies are being constrained. And listen, here in the United States, the farmers are irritated because their costs are going up. But in many parts of the world, you've got farmers that are operating on such low budgets or low margins, Katie, that they wonder, will they stop producing food because they simply can't afford the fertilizer? There is the chart. Again, it's a little bit wonky of a story. Urea is what it's called. There's phosphates, nitrates, whatever. Forget about the names. Just know that this war is about a lot more than just oil.
Can you price it? Can you price it out for me? I mean, with gasoline going up, we now see a 20% increase on average at the pump. I mean, and that might be more if you're in California or in New York, where some prices are getting above $5. Can you price out how the rising cost of fertilizer is going to affect groceries?
Well, yeah, I'll say this. Beef prices. Okay, forget about like a fancy steak. I mean, like just the beef, ground beef, anything cattle related is either at or near record highs. Now, there's a lot of reasons for that. There's been droughts, there's been culled herds, just fewer cattle out there. But think about this. You're layering on. You think, well, why is he talking about fertilizer if we're talking about cattle? Because here's why. What do cattle eat? Okay, they eat corn, they eat hay, they eat wheat, they eat things that are grown. So anything in that supply chain, that food chain, that goes up in price, whether it's the urea chemical fertilizer, Katie, or whether it's water or shipping or trucking. By the way, diesel fuel, all those cattle products, all those food products, they're probably put on a train or a boat or a plane or a truck, which are put in with diesel fuel or jet fuel. So I wanted to come on. I appreciate having me on because I wanted to make clear that while we talk a lot about oil, as we should, okay, there's a lot of other things, even potable drinking water. A lot of those regions of the Gulf. I've actually been at the Strait of Hormuz. I've actually swum in the Persian Gulf. And you can, by the way, you can see Iran. It's not that far of a gap. A lot of the stuff that passes through there is not stuff we'd think about, but we have to start thinking about because they're critical to the stuff that we use and buy and need every day.
It's not just an American problem. I mean, this could contribute to a global food crisis. Jose Andres has been really talking loudly about this.
Chef would know. I mean, he obviously not only has great restaurants, but also is doing great work feeding people in nations hit by disasters and things like that. But you're exactly right. I'll give you an example. Real world, back 100 years ago, literally, we used coal to light whale oil when I was first getting started in trading these commodities. Pakistan was a massive buyer of chemical fertilizers because they have a huge agricultural area. Ukraine, by the way, Ukraine is not only a huge breadbasket for things like wheat and whatever, but they're also a massive consumer and supplier in some ways of fertilizer. So it's the countries that can least afford it because here's how the markets work. And we know this, right? If there is something that is a true commodity, and these fertilizers, the reason I described them, Katie, the way I did is because they're fungible, right? If I have one here, it's the same as one that's halfway across the world. It's going to go where they can afford to be bought. And so what's going to happen is that the market goes up, countries, suppliers, food producers that are able to better afford these chemicals, they're going to be the buyer of choice, and it's going to disproportionately impact countries that maybe can't afford to compete as much in the global market.
It's a big deal. As you're saying, it's not just oil. It's fertilizer as well. Lots of other stuff goes through that strait. All right.